Chapter 1. The Perfect Night. Almost the night was supposed to be perfect. I know, everyone says that. But it really was. Everything had been planned down to the second. The rooftop venue, the string lights, the champagne flutes chilling in silver buckets. It was like a Pinterest board had come to life, curated just for me, and for him. His name was Luke, my boyfriend of 4 years, steady, reliable, the kind of man who always made sure I walked on the inside of the sidewalk and never let my gas tank drop below half. He wasn't flashy, not the grand gesture type. So when he told me we were having a celebration dinner with both our families and closest friends, I knew what it meant. He was going to propose. I didn't let myself get too excited. I'd imagined this moment so many times, built it up in my head until the fantasy nearly collapsed under its own weight. But something about this night felt different. He was nervous, adorably so. Fidgeting with his sleeve, adjusting his cufflinks like they were new skin. The venue overlooked the city skyline. A soft breeze moved through the linen tablecloths. Our parents were there, dressed better than usual. My mom even got a blowout. His dad was wearing a blazer I'd only ever seen at weddings. Everything was ready except for me. I stood in the bathroom staring at my reflection. My best friend Morgan had helped me pick the dress, something soft and navy off the shoulder. Not bridal, but not casual. A perfect middle ground between just another dinner and you're about to say yes to forever. I could feel the nerves in my stomach. Not because I didn't want to say yes, I did. Or at least, I thought I did. It was just big, final. Marriage always felt like this massive, irreversible word. But I shook it off. This was supposed to be our night. When I walked out onto the rooftop, everything seemed to pause for a second. Luke turned. His eyes lit up the way they used to when we first started dating. Everyone turned to look at me, and I swear, for a split second, it felt like the world aligned. Then we sat down. The food was amazing. The wine flowed. Everyone was laughing, talking, toasting. I watched Luke glance at his jacket pocket more than once. He was going to do it soon. I could feel it. Morgan leaned over and whispered, "You ready?" I nodded, my heart pounding. Then it happened. Right as Luke stood up, clearing his throat and tapping his glass gently for attention, his phone left foolishly face up on the table, lit up. One message. Just one. But it changed everything. "Can't wait to see you tonight." And just like that, the air changed. I froze. The screen stayed lit just long enough for me to read it, just long enough for the blood to drain from my face. My heart stopped. My ears started ringing. Luke didn't notice. He was too focused on pulling out the small velvet box from his pocket. Everyone started clapping. He looked straight at me and said, "I just want to say a few words." I stood. Before he could speak, before the words left his mouth, I reached for the mic on the stand next to the band. My hand didn't even shake. I was calm, eerily calm, as I wrapped my fingers around the mic and looked straight at him. "Actually," I said, "I have something to say first." Gasps, laughter, some clapping. People thought it was part of the surprise. They didn't know what. I knew. Not yet. Luke looked stunned, confused. He tried to laugh, reaching out for my hand. But I pulled it away, and I smiled. Not because I was happy, but because I knew what was coming. Because whatever story he was about to tell, mine was better. Chapter 2. What I saw in his eyes. "Actually, I have something to say first." The words echoed across the rooftop, crisp and unexpected. Luke's smile faltered. The crowd, still caught in the warm glow of anticipation, chuckled politely, unsure whether this was a twist in the proposal or a couple's inside joke. But then they saw my face, and the laughter stopped. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I didn't even raise my voice. I just stood there holding the mic, letting the silence do most of the work. Luke blinked slowly, his hand still holding the ring box, half open now. I glanced at it. Classic solitaire. Exactly what I'd described 2 years ago while walking past a jewelry store in New York. He remembered everything, except to lock his phone. Or maybe Deep down, he wanted to get caught. I looked at him. Not the man I had loved. Not the man I was going to say yes to. I looked at the man in front of me, really. Looked at him. And I saw something I hadn't seen before. Guilt. But not fresh guilt. Familiar guilt. Practice. The kind of guilt that comes from getting away with something too many times. Before Luke gets a chance to say what he's been planning, I began scanning the crowd. I'd like to tell you what I just saw. A few guests leaned forward. A couple of moms instinctively grabbed each other's hands. Morgan stared at me, wide-eyed. I raised my phone slowly, mimicking the motion from a moment ago. 1 minute ago, I said. Luke's phone lit up with a message. From someone who clearly isn't me. It said, and I quote, "Can't wait to see you tonight. Single quotes, gasps. Audible this time. Luke's face went pale. He stepped forward. Wait, it's not what you think. Then what is it? I asked calmly, still holding the mic. Is it your sister, your mom? Someone from work? No? Then who can't wait to see you tonight, the same night you plan to propose? More silence. Someone in the back muttered. Oh my God. I turned to the guests. I'm not sharing this to ruin the night. I'm sharing it because I've been told, my whole life, that women are supposed to be graceful, quiet, forgiving. That when something feels wrong, we should wait until we get home to ask about it, alone. Luke stepped toward me again, more urgently. Please, let's talk privately. I'm sure you'd like that, I said. But you didn't cheat on me privately. You planned this whole performance, the dinner, the music, the proposal, knowing full well there was someone else. Maybe more than one. The murmurs around us grew. I could feel the tide turning. Not just against Luke, but toward me. A woman across the table from my parents whispered, "Good for her." Morgan stepped up behind me. I didn't turn to look at her, but I felt her presence, solid, unwavering. Luke's mother stood, flustered. There must be some misunderstanding. Respectfully, I said, turning slightly toward her without losing my composure. If there is, it's not mine. Luke finally snapped. His voice raised just enough to sound desperate. It was one mistake. That was it. The crack I was waiting for. So you admit it, I said quietly. He opened his mouth, then closed it. There was nothing left to defend. Nothing clever to say. I spent 4 years thinking I was building a life with you, I said, still to the crowd. But tonight I realized I was just a backup. A placeholder. While you texted other people behind my back and smiled to my face, I paused. Imagine starting the next chapter of your life with someone who's already got a second story going. I set the mic gently on the table beside me. Then I looked directly at Luke one last time. I would have said yes, I told him. I would have meant it. Then I turned to the guests, to my people. But now, I have better things to plan. Asterisk. Chapter 3. What they didn't know I knew. I didn't storm off. I didn't throw the ring or flip the table or sob into someone's arms. I just walked back to my seat. People moved out of the way like I was radioactive, and maybe I was for him. But not for me. Luke didn't follow. He just stood there, holding a velvet box and a phone that had betrayed him harder than I ever could. I didn't need to make a scene. The scene had already made itself. The crowd didn't know it, but this moment wasn't entirely spontaneous, not for me, because I'd suspected something for a while. Little things, like how he started taking his phone into the shower, how he'd smile at texts and turn the screen away, how he told me he was working late on a Sunday, but his boss had posted a photo from Napa Valley that very afternoon. So, 3 weeks before the dinner, I started paying attention. I didn't go full detective. No spyware. No GPS trackers. Just observation. And one quiet, simple habit. I started writing everything down. Every time he lied, I logged it. Every time his stories didn't add up, I made a note. I wasn't building a case. I was building clarity. Because I needed to know if I was losing my mind, or if I was finally finding the truth. Then, one night, I saw her. Luke thought I was out of town visiting my cousin. I had told him that intentionally. But I stayed, and I waited. At 9:17 p.m. A black sedan pulled up to our apartment. A woman stepped out. Tall, blonde, wearing the same trench coat I'd seen hanging in Luke's closet 2 weeks ago. The one he said belonged to an old roommate who never picked up his stuff. She had a key. She didn't knock. I didn't confront them. I didn't even cry. I just took a photo from across the street, zoomed in enough to see both of them in the living room. His hand on her waist, her laughing at something he said. That was the moment I decided. Let him plan the proposal. Let him gather our families. Let him rent the rooftop, order the food, buy the ring. Let him think he's in control. Because when the truth comes out in front of everyone, it means he never was. That's why I didn't shake when I took the mic. Why I didn't scream. Why I didn't fall apart. I was done doing his emotional labor. He cheated. He lied. And he planned to use my joy to clean his conscience. Not tonight. Not anymore. The rest of the dinner was blurry. Guests shuffled out in waves, some giving me hugs, some whispering words of support, others too stunned to make eye contact. Luke tried to talk to me once as I passed by the elevator. Please, just give me a chance to explain, he said, eyes pleading. You had 4 years, I replied, stepping inside and pressing the button. You used them poorly. The doors closed. Morgan came over later that night, still in her heels, carrying takeout and that look she gets when she's trying not to say I told you so. She didn't need to say it. Instead, she asked, so, what now? I looked around my quiet apartment. Still ours, technically, though I had a feeling that would change very soon. I don't know, I said. But I think I'm done pretending I don't know what I know. Because now, I knew what betrayal looked like. It wasn't always loud. Sometimes it wore cufflinks and brought flowers and asked your dad for permission. Sometimes it stood in front of all your favorite people, ready to lie with a diamond in hand. But sometimes it was the wake-up call you didn't know you needed. Chapter 4. The guest list wasn't for me too. Days after the dinner, my mother called, not to ask how I was doing, not to check if I needed anything, but to say this. You embarrassed him. I stood there, phone pressed to my ear, heart dropping all over again, not from betrayal this time, but from confirmation that some people hadn't come to celebrate me. They came to monitor me, to measure how well I played the part. Mom, I said slowly, he was cheating on me, but in front of everyone? Couldn't you have waited until the dinner was over? That's when I knew the truth. The guest list was never really mine. It was his curated audience. His performance. His timeline. Even the proposal wasn't about us. It was a PR stunt, a shiny, public distraction from the mess underneath. I was never supposed to speak up. I was supposed to smile, cry, say yes, take photos. And later, if I found out the truth, I was supposed to quietly handle it. I hung up the phone, not out of anger, but out of clarity, because I had spent years shrinking to fit other people's comfort. Saying less. Asking gently. Laughing things off. Making peace with crumbs. But no more. The rooftop didn't expose me. It exposed them. That same afternoon, I received a message from someone I didn't recognize, an acquaintance from college. We weren't close, but she'd been at the dinner. She wrote, I wanted to thank you. Watching you speak your truth made me realize I'd been hiding in my own relationship too. You gave me the courage to leave. That broke something open in me, because the story wasn't just mine anymore. It was something bigger. People had seen a woman stand in a moment designed to silence her and choose her voice. Instead, that weekend, Morgan and I went through the photos from the dinner. There weren't many worth keeping, but one caught my eye. It was me. Standing at the mic, shoulders back, eyes forward, the entire room blurred. Behind me, I wasn't smiling. I wasn't angry. I was just ... certain. I printed that photo, framed it, put it on my desk, not to remember the worst night. But to remember the moment I stopped waiting for someone else to define my worth. Luke tried to contact me. Again. Emails. A letter. One voicemail. All the same tone. Regret without real responsibility. I messed up. I don't know why I did it. It didn't mean anything. You blindsided me. But what he really meant was, I lost control of the story, and that's the part you couldn't forgive. A few weeks later, a family friend asked if I wanted to talk things through with Luke in private. Said he felt I was too emotional at the dinner and maybe acted on impulse. I didn't explain myself. I just smiled and said, impulse is screaming. Planning a speech? That was strategy. Because that night, that wasn't emotional chaos. That was years of betrayal, isolation, and quiet disrespect, condensed into a moment of public truth. That wasn't. Revenge. That was released. The guest list may not have been for me. But the mic? That was mine. And once I took it, I never gave it back. Asterisk. Chapter 5. The mic is still many a month after the dinner. I hosted a different kind of gathering. No rooftop. No champagne, no ring. Just 10 women, a few candles. A lot of wine and truth. I called it the mic night. Everyone got 5 minutes to share something they'd never said out loud. No phones. No judgment. Just voice. And when it was my turn, I didn't talk about Luke. I talked about silence. How much space it takes up. How it doesn't just live in your throat. It builds houses in your bones. How you start shrinking in invisible ways. Skipping over sentences. Changing the tone of your questions. Apologizing before you speak. I talked about the way women are taught to be grateful for attention, even when it comes with betrayal. How we're expected to protect the image of the people who hurt us. Because public dignity is more important than private pain. And then I told them what it felt like to pick up a microphone and speak before someone else could lie. I didn't tell it to get sympathy. I told it to get free. After that night, something changed in me. I started writing again. Not just in journals, but publicly. Little essays, threads, stories, things I thought no one would care about until they did. A piece I wrote called What I Said Before He Proposed got shared over 100,000 times in 3 days. Women messaged me with stories that mirrored mine. Some even worse. People in the comments said things like, I wish I'd had your courage. You told my story before I could. This is what reclaiming power looks like. And that's when I realized the mic was never just mine. It was a door, and I had opened it. I no longer needed closure from Luke. He was a chapter. A necessary one. But not the end of the book. He taught me what love isn't. And in doing so, he cleared the way for something better. Even if that something was just me. Standing taller than I'd ever stood before. Some people still whisper. She humiliated him. She ruined her own engagement. But they weren't in my shoes when the screen lit up. They didn't feel the drop in their stomach. The split second of recognition. They didn't carry 4 years of being almost heard, almost seen, almost dash enough. I did. And I'll never apologize for what I did with that moment. One day, someone asked me what I'd say to him now if he showed up. If he tried again. I thought about it. Then I said, nothing. Because silence can speak too. And this time it speaks for me. Now when I see someone about to shrink, I tell them, take the mic. Before they rewrite the story, before they make your pain palatable, before they bend the truth into a prettier shape. Because once you say it out loud, you're free. I don't know where Luke is now. I don't know who he's with. I don't care. Because I'm busy writing a new kind of love story. One that starts with a woman, a moment and a mic, and this time, she doesn't hand it back. Asterisk.